At some point in the 2000s, everything got edgy. Music, movies, video games. If it wasn't dark and serious, it wasn't cool. Batman? He got Batman Beyond, where Gotham became a neon-drenched cyberpunk nightmare. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They ditched the pizza jokes and got TMNT 03, where the Foot Clan felt like actual threats. Also, Shredder was a literal demon, which I know that season isn't very popular, but I love that so much. It's so dumb, but it's so cool, but it's so dumb. Like, the Turtles become dragons. Like, it's so dumb, but it's so cool. Even Scooby-Doo at the time was trying to get a little bit edgy with What's New Scooby-Doo, which, okay, granted, it wasn't actually edgy, but you know, they had a pop punk intro, which was a banger, by the way. What's New Scooby-Doo? We're coming after you, gotta solve that mystery. That hands down is one of the best Scooby-Doo intros of all time. You cannot convince me otherwise. So around that time, everything needed to have an edge, even if it didn't really need one. And the last thing that comes to mind when you think of Bugs Bunny is a katana and laser eyes, but yet somehow, that's exactly what we got. And now I know what I'm about to say might be controversial, but hear me out. I like the edge. I like the weird unnecessary changes they made to Looney Tunes. I like the Loonatics Unleashed. And I know, it was trying so hard to be cool, but something about that over-the-top unnecessary edge worked for me in my little dumb child brain. The futuristic Looney Tunes, the ridiculous superpowers, and the names that sounded like rejected Xbox gamer tags, I ate it up and I was eating good. So yeah, I like the Loonatics Unleashed. And by the end of this video, I hope you understand where my appreciation for this, let's just say this very unique interpretation of the Looney Tunes came from and why I think it deserves to be remembered. So I'm Remy, I have random hot takes on the internet and I just want to know if anyone's checked on Loonatics Unleashed, and if not, let's. Like previously stated, the early 2000s were obsessed with making everything dark and edgy. Warner Bros saw this trend and thought, hey, you know who really needs an edgy reboot? Bugs Bunny. Except Looney Tunes wasn't struggling. They were still cultural icons, yet someone in a boardroom decided the best way to keep them relevant was to strip everything away that made them fun. But then the designs were shown, and people hated them. Like, the amount of hate they received was completely unwarranted. It felt like people had saw this new Bugs Bunny design and thought, yeah, this guy, he would do a crime and would download a car off the internet. If you get that, you're as old as I am, and I'm sorry. Whatever marketing team thought it was a good idea to say you wouldn't download a car is so ridiculously stupid. Who would not download a car for free? Like, what? What even was that marketing attempt? Like, that's so out of touch. Even for the early 2000s, who would not download a car anyway? People were expecting a fun, futuristic take on the Looney Tunes. Instead, they got quote-unquote nightmare fuel. The backlash was so bad, WB had to soften the designs before the show even aired. And that's how we got the versions that made it to TV. But even after the redesign, the damage was already done. And okay, honestly, those initial designs were not great. I mean, it got so bad, people called Ace the evil Bugs Bunny, which is hilarious, by the way. The one good thing that came from all that backlash is that I like the designs the show settled on before the show aired in 2005 on the kids' WB. But I do think one of the biggest issues for the pushback came is that people didn't know that the Lunatics were the descendants of the OG characters. They weren't Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Taz. They were completely new characters. And honestly, as a kid, it was something I didn't know. And even then, I didn't care because I just like, this is a cool show. People are doing things. There's lasers. That's all I need. Dumb kid brain. And honestly, I bet you a lot of kids around my age also really didn't care also. And it was more the parents having an issue with it because they didn't like how the Looney Tunes were being depicted because that was their childhood. So on one hand, I understand you want to treasure your childhood and, you know, pass it on to your kids as positive as you remember it. But the other hand, let my man Ace have his katana and his laser eyes. Why do you have to kill fun just because of the design? I would get it if the story was something crazy, but it was just basic character designs. The story hadn't been put out yet at this point, which is a shame. But here's where things get kind of weird. Staying true to its actual origins, Lunatics Unleashed wasn't just a superhero show. It wanted to be Looney Tunes and Justice League at the same time. That's like trying to mix Mad Max with SpongeBob SquarePants. It just doesn't work. But for me though, it did work. I like this stupid combination. You could tell I'm the type of guy that used to combine all his drinks into one super drink and think he was so creative for doing it. We all know what those drinks were called, but I'm not gonna say it because I feel like I'll get demonetized on YouTube. But you can Google it. It's a fun, I mean, the name isn't fun. I don't know who named it. The naming sense is horrible, but it was cool when I was a kid. Moving on. Ace Bunny was supposed to be Bugs Bunny with leadership skills and a katana. You have Danger Duck, who was Daffy, and I get he could be annoying, but I grew up as a middle child, and Daffy always had middle child energy, so I got him on a spiritual level. Also, he had fire powers and could teleport, which gave him the coolest power sets out of all the Lunatics. Then you have Rev Runner, who was obviously the Roadrunner's descendant. His whole thing was he was fast, so he did everything fast. And that's cool, it makes sense that his power set would be speed, he could fly too and had like an internal GPS, which was interesting, I guess. But the really cool thing about Rev was him and Tech were actually really good friends, considering that their ancestors were actual ops. So it's kind of cool that they played with the dynamic like that for this show. Next we have Lexi, who was honestly second in command of the group and the most chill member of the group. And if I'm being honest, she's the most normal out of the group, considering the rest are Slam and Friends and Slam and I never liked Slam. We'll get to Slam eventually. Anyway, she's pretty cool. I like the fact that Lexi was just Lexi. She's not a love interest. She's not a damsel in distress. She can hold her own in a fight, and that's really cool. And she has a personality that makes her unique to her. Oh, also, she could be a descendant from potentially 3 different bunnies: Lola Bunny, Daisy Lou, or Honey Bunny. As a kid, I just thought it was only Lola, but apparently, the more you know, I guess. Hey, editor Remy, throw up the thing, the more, that thing, there you go. People love that. And then we have Slam, the descendant of Taz. He's the muscle of the group, and even as a kid, I hated the fact that he could never speak in English. Like, I understand why he never spoke English, it's a callback to the OG Taz, fine, whatever, but I've never been a fan of Taz not speaking English or Slam not speaking English. So I understand why, but it doesn't mean I like it. And finally, we have Tech E Coyote, whose parents clearly had the same idea as people who named their kid Dr. Lawyer. But unlike Dr. Lawyer, Tech actually got a job in the field his parents wanted until he got superpowers and became the team's gear guy, which is cool, but he himself is just kind of whatever. I mean, his powers are cool, he regenerates from everything, that's a callback to his ancestor, who used to catch dynamite with his face, but overall, Tech was kind of just mid for me. I've never really cared for his character. I like his gear, like the gadget he builds are cool, but overall Tech was he's there. It's fun. I like his colors. Green's my favorite color, so I like that he was green. That's about it. And finally, we have the supervisor of the Looney Tunes JLA, Zadavia. She's the woman in the chair telling the team about threats coming to the city. She's mostly supporting / background character. Oh, she's also the reason the Lunatics got their powers, but that really doesn't matter till her brother shows up in season 2. Each episode tried to balance wacky humor with serious action, but the tone was everywhere. One moment they'd be fighting a villain named Weathervane. The next they'd be cracking jokes that felt ripped straight out from a Sonic the Hedgehog game. Take that as you will. It was like watching a show that wanted to be cool but was never actually cool. But that's only if you took the show at face value. If you wanted an action show from this, you didn't get it because of the Looney Tunes aspect. If you wanted some slapstick comedy, you didn't get it because of the superhero aspect. It was in a weird position. It's like if the show's creators, Christian and Yvonne Tremblay, had just watched Space Jam and thought, what if Superman instead of Michael Jordan? So with that in mind, I can get why this didn't work for some people. But for me, I like SWAT Cats, so this is straight up my alley. I enjoyed the touch of both action and comedy that made the show special. Not to mention, me as a kid, you gave anyone fire powers and I was already invested. You can guess the kind of starter Pokemon I used to pick as a kid. And I get it, picking fire types are pretty basic because all the fire types are the best types. But I like what I like, and this show is what I liked. So what happened in this story that was so controversial that made people wish this never happened? For a show that only had 2 seasons, it must have done something wrong, right? Yes and no. Like previously mentioned, a lot of the hatred for this show started from the initial design reveal back before the show even aired. So for a lot of people, before Ace even gave his first "What's up, Doc?", this show was already in the mud for a majority of parents and fans. The first season of Loonatics Unleashed kicked off in the year 2772 with the meteor crashing into Acmetropolis, mutating the 6 descendants of the Looney Tunes into superheroes, which is also really weird because majority of the people in Acmetropolis are just regular humans, except for the Lunatics, but everyone else is just like regular humans, and they just don't question the existence of the Lunatics even before the meteorite fall. Like, Tech was in college, he was just chilling in college, but he was also a coyote man, and everyone else was like, yeah, that's normal, I guess. I wouldn't question it if you don't, and no one did. And me personally, I gotta take that suspension of disbelief off real fast to say that's just bad world building. If no one's gonna say it, I will. It's not the end of the world or anything like that, but it's just something that bothers me a little bit, because it's like, why is no one else an animal person except for the superhero Lunatics? No one else thinks that's kind of weird, but whatever. Continuing. The Lunatics are led by Ace Bunny. The team spends most of the season battling over-the-top villains like the weather-controlled punks or the literal time-traveling Vikings, which are also so fun, by the way. Just time-traveling mechanical Vikings. So cool. The show tries to balance serious superhero action with slapstick humor, but it mostly lands in this awkward middle ground of either it's a hit or a miss. And every episode follows the same formula. Villain shows up, the Looney Tunes lose the first fight, they learn a vague lesson about teamwork, and then Ace comes in clutch and gets to the win. And this is kind of the entire formula for the entire first season. Rinse and repeat. And I kind of get how this could be kind of boring. But being boring isn't worth throwing stones at it. If you want to throw stones at Lunatics, at least do it for the right reasons, like the theme song. Season 1 and 2 have some of the worst theme songs I've ever heard. Like, they are so bad. Throw them away, put them in the trash, burn the trash, and forget the trash ever existed. Moving on to season 2. After a rough first season, WB realized kids actually liked fun, so they made season 2 a little bit more lighthearted. It wasn't anything crazy, but they actually started to flesh out the personalities beyond I'm the cool leader and I run fast, so you got to see the characters actually develop in real time. The team's powers get upgrades, new tech, and they even get an overarching plot this season. And that includes finding out the secret origins of their powers, deeper lore, and secret organizations masterminded by Zadavia's brother Optimus, who straight up looks like he's a He-Man reject, but you know, we don't judge here. Actually, he's a bad guy, so we judge a little bit here. He looks bad. And despite all these improvements, it was a little bit too late. Viewers had already moved on, and WB pulled the plug before season 3 could even happen. And with that, the Lunatics were, I guess, released. That's pretty dumb, but they were released, so they are no longer available or out in the wild. Their show got canceled, which is a shame, because me personally, I feel like if they leaned more into the comedy aspect in season 1, if this show had some good meta humor, I feel like it could have been well received like Duck Dodgers was a few years prior. But unfortunately, this wasn't the only area where Lunatics Unleashed fell short of expectations. If there's one thing studios love, it's selling merch. Even the worst kind of shows can survive as long as the toys sell well enough. I'm looking at you, TMNT Fast Forward, you sucked. And I'm glad you got canceled very fast. But Lunatics, on the other hand, nobody wanted those toys. Those action figures look stiff, the designs didn't translate well to toys, and not to mention, even if it came to video games, they had a Flash game, but let's be honest here, if it wasn't Teen Titans Battle Blitz, which is the greatest Flash game of all time, and if you disagree, argue with your mother, why even have a Flash game if you're not Teen Titans Battle Blitz? And I'm sorry, just Lunatics was not it. So if the franchise and the merch flops, that's it, game over. WB saw the numbers and decided to pull the plug. So 2 seasons, that's all we got. WB quickly and quietly pulled it from the lineup. It went back to making more traditional Looney Tunes content. But here's the funny thing, Lunatics never completely disappeared. Nowadays, it normally appears as more of a cameo in current shows, but normally as a joke or something you don't talk about that you're embarrassed of. Like that one weird awkward face everyone totally has where they thought fedoras were cool and you used to wear fedoras, but also because Neo lied to you and fedoras are not cool. And Neo is not that cool. But the grip So Sick had on me in 2006 was kind of ridiculous, so I thought he was the coolest guy in the world. And moving back to Lunatics, they actually recently got a cameo in Teen Titans Go. Yes, the show that mocks everything DC related and teaches your kids about taxes. Yes, I said taxes. They recently decided to resurrect Lunatics one more time just to kill him as soon as they brought him back. But it's funny and they got the little joke out of it and yada yada yada. But it's cool that they get cameos and I appreciate that at least people remember them enough to make said cameos. But with that in mind, should Lunatics come back? So here's the thing. Bad ideas can be saved by good execution. Voltron's been rebooted a couple times, and both times they became pretty big hits. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles been reinvented at least 6 times. Side note, I'm still mad Rise got canceled. Rise was so good. It was such a sleeper show. If y'all know about Rise, like, go watch Rise. Super good. Regardless, Lunatics Unleashed was a product of its time. Edgy, over the top, trying too hard to be cool, but honestly, that's what made it fun. It was the kind of show that could only exist in the early 2000s, standing alongside shows like Mucha Lucha or Static Shock, shows that experimented with tone without completely losing what made them fun in the first place. Sure, Lunatics was messy, and yeah, season 1 took itself way too seriously, but by season 2, it started figuring things out. If it had lasted longer, who knows, it might have become something genuinely great, but does it need a comeback? And I can say this with full confidence, not really. Unfortunately, Looney Tunes doesn't have the same pool it once did, and even now, Warner Brothers seems to be struggling to keep it alive if they're not trying to kill it themselves. Look at you, David Zaslav. It feels like this man's actual personal mission in life is to kill fun. And that sucks. Still though, watching a bunny with laser eyes and a katana fight time-traveling mecha Vikings is undeniably cool. And maybe, just maybe, we've forgotten how to enjoy things just for the fun of it. Maybe it's just getting older. Or maybe it's because the world isn't as fun as it used to be. But that doesn't mean we can't look back and appreciate the sheer insanity of it all. A team of futuristic, armored-up cartoon animals saving the world from intergalactic threats. There's a kind of unhinged creativity I miss. It didn't need to be perfect, it just needed to be fun, and maybe, just maybe, we could all use a little bit more of that today. So I'm Remy, thanks for letting me check up on the Lunatics Unleashed, like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and I will see y'all in the next one. Y'all be easy now. Later.